Welcome to TechTalk session dedicated to newly introduced localization for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance Operations apps for LATAM countries. My name is Evgeny Popov, and I'm a product manager in the Dynamics 365 Finance team, and my major responsibilities are around globalization of Dynamics 365 Finance Operations applications. And together with me are Andrey Kviklis and Mikhail Filatov, who are also product managers on our team. Before we jump in to the localization topics, to the localizations for LATAM countries, I'm going to provide some quick introduction of the overall Dynamics 365 globalization efforts and strategy, and also the roadmap. So, speaking about the Dynamics 365 globalization strategy, we have three major components of the strategy. The first component, of course, the multi-country functionality and content that we provide for Dynamics 365 Finance Operations applications. And this content and this functionality is basically based on the so-called globalization blueprint, which is a list of areas, of the common functional areas that we support in localizations for various countries or regions. And the major areas here are the tax determination and calculation, where we support the tax determination process and calculation process for various types of taxes required in various countries, such as VAT, such as withholding tax, or GST. The next area, and one of the most important area of localization, is the electronic invoicing. Obviously, electronic invoicing is a bigger trend these days, and more countries or regions are introducing mandatory requirements on electronic invoicing and real-time or near real-time reporting of tax transactions. And we support electronic invoicing requirements out of the box for 20 plus countries. Currently, we support also generic formats of electronic invoicing, such as PayPal. And for some of the countries, we support also integrations with tax authorities and or service providers for the submission of electronic invoices. We also provide a lot of localization functionalities and features in the tax and regulatory reporting area, where we support more than 300 of tax and other regulatory reports, such as tax declarations, audit files, country or region-specific reporting, such as EU sales list of Intrastat for Europe, and so on and so forth. Big part of the multi-country functionality is in the banking and payments area, where we support the most important mandatory payment formats, such as SEPA for Europe, and also bank reconciliation, bank reports, and other features. And we have some other components of the localization, such as, for example, fixed assets localization, or localization in general ledger area, and also localization features for other Dynamics 365 financial operations apps, such as supply chain management or commerce. And the last but not the least area here is business documents, where we support various legally required formats of documents, such as invoices, orders, quotations, payments, and so on. The next major component of the globalization strategy is the no-code or low-code tools that are part of the Globalization Studio. And these tools are aimed to provide the possibility to implement or adjust or customize the localization functionality without using the code or using just low code. And we have a tax calculation service, which provides the low code capabilities in the tax calculation areas. We also have the electronic invoicing service, which supports the electronic invoicing requirements, easy implementation and customization of these requirements. We also extensively use the electronic reporting functionality, which provides the possibility for no-code or low-code configuration of various types of electronic reports, including like regulatory reports, also like payment formats, and so on. And configurable business documents, which is based on electronic reporting, provides the possibility to configure and or adjust the formats for business documents by using like native interfaces of Microsoft Excel and Word. And the third major part of the globalization strategy here is partner extensions. We not only provide the out-of-the-box functionalities or out-of-the-box localizations for select countries, but we also rely on our channel partners that provide localization solutions for countries or regions that we do not support out-of-the-box, and also provide additional features for the supported countries. And currently, overall, we can see from our telemetry that our solution was used in more than 200 countries or regions across the globe, which is basically supported by the three globalization strategy components. Speaking about the major investment areas that we have in globalization. First area is, of course, country expansion. We have a number of countries or regions that we support out of the box. We understand that we have a lot of international customers that are present in multiple countries or regions in the world, and they need localizations for these countries or regions, and they have to use partner solutions or independent solutions in the countries that are supported out of the box. So we aim to extend this coverage to simplify implementations or rollouts to more and more countries across the globe. And next major investment area in globalization is continuous regulatory compliance, where we continuously monitor legislation changes in the countries or regions that we support, and plan and ship on the timely basis the regulatory updates that we consider applicable and impacting the majority of our customers. And of course, we are always looking at the options on how to provide better automation for all supported processes. We call it tax automation, but it's not only about tax determination and calculation, but it's also about the automation in the electronic invoicing, regulatory reporting, and other areas. All areas that are supported in the product. And here we are looking at also at leveraging a modern artificial intelligence or copilot capabilities that are being developed by Microsoft and that are part already currently of the D365 functionality or so capabilities in order to make the regulatory compliance as much like seamless and as much as easy as possible for our customers. Talking about our current country coverage and the roadmap, currently we support out of the box 52 countries or regions. Four of the countries in this list are in the public preview stage, and 48 are generally available. We also support 74 different languages. And in the coming updates, we are expanding the country coverage. You can see here that for the three coming release waves, and by release wave, we understand all the versions that or all the updates that are released between, for example, April and September for wave 1 and October and March for wave 2. So we plan to release additional localizations for multiple LATAM countries in the three next release waves. So we are specifically focused on the LATAM region during last years and in coming years. Some additional details on the status of LATAM localizations that are available currently. So you can see in the table on the slide that starting from the list 40, we have the so-called cross-LATAM functionalities, and also 8 countries available. 4 countries, Chile, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama, are generally available, and Colombia, Paraguay, Uruguay, and Guatemala are in the public preview state. And general availability for the 4 last countries is expected in this release wave. So basically, we are going to make them generally available quite shortly. I also need to note that for the first four countries, Chile, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Panama, we don't have electronic invoicing integration capabilities provided out of the box currently, but these electronic invoicing integration capabilities will be provided also shortly in this release wave for Chile, Costa Rica, and Panama, and obviously Nicaragua doesn't have electronic invoicing requirements currently. But for the 4 next countries, Colombia, Guatemala, Paraguay, and Uruguay, the general availability should include electronic invoicing capabilities as well. And in the 2024 release wave 2 and beyond, we are going to add 6 more countries that you can see here. So Bolivia, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, Peru, Venezuela, and Argentina. I recommend you to follow the Latin America overview article on the Microsoft Learn portal, where you can see the overview of the available localizations or plans for LATAM localizations, and also follow our release plans that detail the release schedule. Okay, let's dig into LATAM functionalities now. So our solution for the LATAM functionality for LATAM region currently includes 2 countries that have been supported for quite a while, which is Brazil and Mexico, right? And we are also adding 12 countries, as you count previously, gradually adding them. And today we are talking about solutions for these newly added countries. And it's important to mention and to highlight here that for these 12 countries, the big part of the localization is actually the so-called cross-LATAM localization. So these are features that are available to all these countries, and they work more or less the same for all these countries, with maybe minor country flavors. And we also have country-specific features in some areas. So you can see that we provide some cross-LATAM features in the tax determination and calculation areas, such as tax setup and master data, withholding tax, We provide cross-LATAM features in invoicing, such as document classification and also some common electronic invoicing functionalities. We provide a common cross-LATAM functionalities in tax audit and reporting, in banking and payments, and some other localization capabilities. And we also provide country-specific features such as electronic invoice formats, tax and accounting reports that are specific to individual countries, and also country-specific documents such as in invoice layouts and some other layouts. You can find the complete list of features that are available across LATAM and to individual countries in our public documentation. And with this, we are switching to the parts of the session dedicated to specific functional areas of localizations. And this part of the session is made in form of pre-recorded demos mostly. The first pre-recorded demo covers the general configuration of the cross-LATAM functionalities.
For this demo, we will use the company Contoso Mexico MXMF because a demo company for each Latin American country is not yet available. This company has the necessary main configurations, such as a legal entity created, also has the main accounting configurations. In the Accounts Payable menu, we have already created vendors. There are also customers created. We can also find some inventory items ready to use. The configurations of this demo company will allow us to enable the LATAM localization to get to know the functionalities and test its use. Then, to start, we need to enable the localization. Go to Feature Management menu. In the All tab, use a quick filter to search for records. In Feature Name field, write LATAM and press OK. In this way, you will see the available options. In the list, find and select LATAM Globalization Expansion and enable the feature. Select LATAM Globalization Expansion, Chile, if you want to work with that country. If you want to use the localization for Costa Rica, select LATAM Globalization Expansion and LATAM Globalization Expansion, Costa Rica. For Nicaragua, select LATAM Globalization Expansion and LATAM Globalization Expansion, Nicaragua. And finally, for Panama, select LATAM Globalization Expansion and LATAM Globalization Expansion, Panama. Once the localization is enabled, it is necessary to verify that the legal entity has the LATAM country configured in its address. Go to Organization Administration, Organizations, Legal Entities. In the Addresses tab, you can check the country that your company has configured. In this case, Chile is selected. In order to start using the localization, it is useful to know where you can find the LATAM's menus within Finance and Operations. The first example is in the Organization Administration. Go to the Setup option. Normally, you will see the LATAM option there, with the main localization configuration menus. In the Forms, you can see the LATAM option in the Action pane. In the Master configuration, you can see the LATAM extension at the bottom of the page. Also in the Inquiries and Reports section, you can see the LATAM option. Then in the Transactions, for example, here in an invoice registration, you will see the LATAM extension in the header section at the bottom of the page. You can also see it in the journals. For example, here is a vendor payment journal. You will see that here you will also find a LATAM extension. Now that we have enabled the localization and know where to find the menus, let's start with the main settings. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, and select LATAM parameters. In Document Class Prefix Length field, you can add manually, indicating quantity of characters that will be allowed for the prefix field of the document class type master. In Document Class Letter Prefix Length field, you can add manually the quantity of characters that will be allowed for the prefix field of the document class letter master. In LATAM parameters, you will find more configuration options. We will come back here later. These settings will allow us to configure the forms for invoicing and taxpayer type. After configuring LATAM parameters, we will be able to configure another of the main localization menus. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, and select Tax ID type. This form will allow us to create all the types of fiscal identity to use for each country. Let's create one. Select New. In Tax ID field, add an ID, for example, RUT. That is a common tax identification for Chile. In Tax ID Type Description, add a description for this ID. Then in Method Validation Masks field, select Basic. In Mask field, set the number of characters that the tax ID has. In Chile, for example, the format is 8 digits plus a hyphen to separate the verification digit. Finally, we will select the option Country Identification Type to be able to use it in the following configurations. This is an example of a tax ID for Costa Rica. This is an example of a tax ID for Nicaragua. This is an example of a tax ID for Panama. To create the types of taxpayers to be used, go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, Taxpayer Type. This form will show the sections to be configured. Select New. In Taxpayer Type field, add an ID. Then in Description field, add a description for the identification. In Setting tab, leave checked the options for Mandatory Country or Region of Origin, Mandatory Country Identification Number. In the Document Type section, select one of the options created previously. Once Tax ID is selected, we need to choose a document type letter option. In this case, we don't have any created. Then we select Details and go to the configuration form. Select New. In Document Class Letter ID, add an ID for the letter of document class. In Description field, type a description for each letter. In this case, the prefix field will be empty. Then we go back to the taxpayer type configuration and finish the settings. An important setting to check is the address menu. Go to Search option and write Address Setup. Here you will find the address settings. Go to Country tab and search the country, in this case Chile. Go to LATAM option, select LATAM. By default, foreign country field is marked as yes. If you are going to use Chile as local country, you need to uncheck the option and stay as no. Then, in the section, Allowed Country Document Types, you can select one of the previously created options. In this case, our UT Chile. You can also configure the option state, county, and city, according to the geographical organization of your country. Once the main menus are configured, we can go to other menus in Finance to configure the LATAM extensions. Go to Organization Administration, Organization, Legal Entities. At the bottom of the page, you will find the LATAM extension. As prerequisites, many of the previously configured options are displayed. Select Edit and Start Configure. Select an option of taxpayer type, then select the country from the list. As you can see, country document type will appear automatically. Then you have to complete the country identification field with the number given by your tax authority. You may also add activities, start date of your company. The LATAM extension has other fields available. Some of them are used for billing purposes. In the same way as the legal entity, we must proceed with the other menus. Go to Accounts Payable, Vendors, All Vendors. Select one vendor. At the bottom of the page, you will find LATAM extension. If you observe, you will find the same options as the legal entity. This is because all master menus are configured in a similar way. Only the vendor set field changes. Select Edit. In Vendor Set field, choose an option. In Taxpayer field, select one. Select a country. Country document type will appear automatically. Complete the country identification field with the number given by your vendor. You may complete additional fields if necessary. Once the vendor configuration is finished, we can go to another menu. Go to Accounts Receivable, Customers, All Customers. Select one customer. At the bottom of the page, you will find LATAM extension. If you observe, you will find the same options as Vendor Master. In this case, you will see Customer Set field. Select Edit. In Customer Set field, choose an option. In Taxpayer field, select one. Select a country. Country document type will appear automatically. Complete the country identification field with the number given by your customer. In this way, we review some main localization settings.
The next demo is dedicated to cross-LATAM features in the invoicing area.
We will use the cross-LATAM configurations to set up the necessary forms for invoicing. We will use the cross-LATAM configuration forms to give the necessary characteristics to the invoicing documents for each country. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, Document Class Type. In this form, we will be able to select the type of document that we want to configure. If it is a payment method, an invoice, a credit note, a packing slip, or if we want to select the behavior that the document will have in journals. Let's take the following example here. We have in Document Class Type ID, a description, and we select the prefix to view in journals. We also select the invoicing options to be able to use this document. In the same way, configure a credit note and select the modules in which you want to work with this document. For packing slip documents, select the modules in which you want to work with. Create all the necessary document types according to your invoicing scheme. The next form we are going to configure the document class. For that, we will go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, Document Class. Here we will find different menu options through which we will be able to assign the characteristics to each of the document types for each country. In this case, we have in Vendor Invoice class. You can assign an ID, a description. In the legal description field, it is recommended to set it in the official language of the country. We also select the document class type previously created. Assign the letter. After choosing the document class type and the letter, you will automatically see the prefix configured. Within the General tab, you will also find other menu options that correspond to other documents. In particular, we recommend to configure the document class separator in this way. Then, in the Copy the Document I field, select the option document number and invoice. In this way, when this document class is used in transactions, the number assigned in the LATAM extension will be replicated to the native field's document number and invoice. You will also find other configuration options for additional concepts that can be added to the invoice. You can assign a journal with which you will be able to work with this document. In the additional information section, we have all the options available. Remember that this form corresponds to the cross-LATAM group-up, so you will find all the possible configurations, but it is not necessary to configure all of them. You will have to check for each type of document what do you need to configure. In the Document Mask section, we can assign the number of characters that this type of document will have. In this case, as it is a vendor invoice, select a manual mask type. Select the option before posting. So, when you want to post an invoice in the LATAM extension, you will enter the invoice number. You can set prefix and document number fields as mandatory. If your invoice does not have a prefix number, you can disable the option and just leave the document number option to set as required when you post an invoice. Let's see the difference with an invoice that is used in the electronic invoice process. In this case, the ID field was assigned with the codification provided by the tax authority. The field's description and legal description were added. The required data regarding the document class type and the document class letter were completed. The document separator was also configured, and it was also marked the option document number and invoice to be used in the LATAM extension, so when you post an invoice, LATAM document number will be copied in the document number and invoice native fields. In this case, a journal was not assigned, but you can assign one in case you use this document type in journals. In the additional information section, we have all the options available. But in this example, you will find the field List 1 enabled for this type of invoices. To set up the list fields, go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, Field Master List. Here you can add all the fields ready to be used in your invoicing. Depending on each country, the list options will be completed with the necessary information for each type of invoice. In the Document Mask section, you will find the Customer option, so you can assign the prefix and number of characters that the invoice can have. Then we select an Automatic Type Mask. Remember that the invoicing must be consecutive and correlative, so we recommend Automatic Type Masks to assign the corresponding number in a sales transaction. You can set prefix and document number fields as mandatory to be sure that the users will add the information in sales transactions. In Document Class Form, you can continue with the configurations. Go to Action pane and select Document Class Sales Point option. In this form, you can use the drop-down fields to select the document class ID and account type to be configured. In the Sales Point field, you can select one option from the Sales Point Master. Numeric Sequence Code field is a drop-down menu where you can select the numeric sequence that the document should follow. Finally, the Notes and Printing concepts allow you to enter notes used for printing reports. The information added in these fields will be associated to the particular document class and sales point. From the document class sales point form, we can go to the sales point form. Click in Sales Point. This form will allow you to register all the sales point for invoicing that the company use. Sales point. This field can be filled in manually with an ID. Complete the description field. For some countries, it will be necessary to enable the Validate CA option. Sales point type field is this drop-down menu. You can select one of the following options for the document. Prefix field. You can configure the corresponding sales point prefix. Report/service ID. This field is used to link the sales point with a report format. This field is used for the electronic invoice connection. In the tab Warehouses, allows associating the sales point with warehouses is used for those transactions that generate inventory movement. Once finished, we can return to the Document Class Sales Point page. Here we will see how the sales point can be linked to the numeric sequence for the document. Click in Number Sequence. We will be able to visualize the number sequence configuration page. Create an ID and add a name for the sequence. Select the company. In the Segments section, configure with the number of characters that your sales document has. In the General section, check as Yes the Continuous option. Set the range of numbers that your sales document has. Once the configurations are finished, we can go to Register Transactions. Let's start with Vendor Transactions. Before we start, let's check the settings of the vendor we are going to work with. Go to LATAM extension. Check that the LATAM fields are completed. Check that the vendor set has enabled the documents you are going to work with that vendor. Once reviewed, we can go to Register the transaction. Go to Account Payable, Invoices, Invoice Journal. Select New. Select a vendor invoice journal configured. Go to Lines. Select Vendor Account. Enter the invoice amount. Go to LATAM extension. In the document class field, select an option. The available options depend on the vendor set configuration. Here we can see that the document number field is marked as mandatory. That depends on the configuration we made in the form document class. Complete this field with the vendor invoice number. The date fields will take the day of the transaction, but you can modify them manually if you need to. Go to Lines. Add a new line. Select Ledger Account. Select the account number. Add the vendor invoice amount. Select the sales tax group that match with the transaction. Select the item sales tax group as well. Check that taxes have been calculated. Normally, all transactions have at least one sales tax rate. The transaction may be taxed at the general rate, exempt or not taxed. For any of these situations, it is necessary to have configured sales tax codes beforehand. If there is no tax calculated on the transaction, when you print the purchase tax report, it will not show the invoice. Then remember, in the vendor line, you must complete the LATAM extension with the vendor's invoice data. Verify that the accounting line has calculated taxes according to the invoice received. Finally, post the journal. Then we can see that the invoice number assigned in the tab LATAM has been replicated in the invoice field. Also has been replicate in the document number field. Let's start with customer transactions. Before we start, let's check the settings of the customer we are going to work with. Go to Accounts Receivable, Customers, All Customers. Select the customer. Go to LATAM extension and check the configuration. Check the customer set configuration. Here you can review the document class enabled for the client. Go to Accounts Receivable, Invoices, All Free Text Invoices. Select New. Select the customer account. In the Invoice Line section, enter the description. Select a ledger account. Select the sales tax group and item sales tax group. Check the quantity and enter the invoice amount. Go to Header section. At the bottom of the page, you will find LATAM extension. In the Document Class field, select one option from the list. In Sales Point field, select an option from the list. Document date and due date will be automatically populated with the customer's settings. In this case, we are registering a service transaction for Chile. The document class configuration has a list field enabled. That allows you to add this information. Depending on the country, it will be necessary to configure the different list fields to add the information for electronic invoicing. Check Publish Documentation in Microsoft Learn. Go to Sales Tax. Verify that the sales taxes calculated are as expected. Remember that sales transactions must contain at least one sales tax code. Go to Totals. Check the amounts. If everything is correct, select Post to record transaction. Go to Invoice. Invoice Journal if you want to check posted invoice. General considerations for e-invoicing. Remember to download the formats available for your country. As a general rule, the issuer's data will be those of the legal entity. Receiver data will be taken from the customer's settings. Invoice detail will take transaction information. Your country's tax authority may require some of the information to be encoded. Use the tax application option on each of the pages to add the codes provided. Check Publish Documentation for more details of your country.
Okay, with this, we are switching to the electronic invoicing area, and I'm giving the floor to Andrey Kviklis, who will provide a general overview of the electronic invoicing capabilities and then finance, and also focus on the electronic invoicing capabilities for LATAM. Andrey, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and let me introduce you to the electronic invoicing service for Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance, Supply Chain Management, and Project Operations, which provides an integrated experience for processing in electronic documents. This service is a hyper-scalable multi-tenant service that enables configurable processing of electronic invoices and document exchange in many countries and regions. This service offers configurable formats for transformations, digital signages, and integrations for connectivity with external web services, including certificates and response handling. The globalization feature within the electronic invoicing service consists of components that define rules for data transformation in electronic reporting configurations. These components provide instructions for processing electronic documents and managing their exchange with external channels based on specific conditions. Microsoft provides globalization features out of the box through the Dataverse repository. However, partners or customers can also create and configure them from scratch. Azure Key Vault and Storage Account are essential components of the electronic invoicing service. They must be established within your Azure subscription as they are fully owned and managed by you. The storage account retains all processed or generated electronic files by the invoicing system, while Key Vault stores shared access signature tokens from your storage account along with secrets, account passwords used across various scenarios, including certificates containing secrets necessary for digital signing or establishing trusted connection with external web services. Well, and what does this electronic service do? Based on electronic reporting, it transforms invoice data into the required formats. And if necessary, the electronic reporting formats and mappings configurations are easily adaptable. For issuing, it supports a variety of electronic invoicing formats to comply with local regulations. The country-specific formats are provided out of the box. Then it digitally signs the documents and integrates with tax authorities and authorized service providers web services for granting electronic authorization or approval. And finally, for receiving, it also supports a variety of electronic invoicing formats. It integrates with Office and SharePoint to automatically receive electronic invoices from different types of channels. Okay, and as we are discussing LATAM today, let me inform you that the first country we are releasing in this region is Chile. The e-invoicing globalization feature, including ISV last mile connector with Edicom for Chile, will be available next week, starting from version 10.0.40 and the build number shown in the screenshot on the slide. Here we support the corresponding formats for various types of electronic documents, such as invoice and export invoice, packing slip, debit and credit notes, including export ones. Their formats cover scenarios for sales orders, retext invoices, and project invoices. The globalization feature for Chile includes both outbound and inbound flows. Therefore, it allows the issuance of invoices for sales operations as well as the import of incoming invoices from suppliers. The purchase invoices are imported into the vendor pending invoice entity for further check and approval and posting. The Chilean specific requirements for the integration are fully supported. This includes update actions for submitted documents to perform updates on the documents based on the latest response from the SII tax authority. And also it supports the buyer's ability to reject business documents. Okay, and the ISV last mile connector with Edicom, which we introduced, complements the standard electronic invoicing service functionality. It supports countries and regions where no direct integration with government electronic invoicing platform is allowed, or where the use of authorized service providers is mandated or available. In these scenarios, the documents are passed to the last mile connector for further communication. In the case of incoming electronic documents, the ISV last mile connector is used as a source of inbound documents, which are then handled by finance. Edicom is an authorized certification provider and an e-invoicing company accredited by the Chilean authorities, as well as many other Latin American and European countries. The company is responsible for validating, certifying, and timestamping digital signatures on invoices. And now let's move on to demonstration of this functionality for Chile. Thank you for your attention.
Hello everyone. In this demo, I will walk you through the e-invoicing globalization feature for Chile, where we are partnering with Edicom for the last mile integration with the tax authorities. Let's cover some prerequisites. This new globalization feature requires you to be on Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finance version 10.0.40, specifically on build number 10.0.1935.60 or above. It can only be imported into the new Globalization Studio and is not supported in RCS. Additionally, you must enable the features shown here in Feature Management. The first feature is the electronic invoicing integration, which is the base feature required to submit invoices using the electronic invoicing service. Next, we have the Execute Update Actions for Submitted Documents feature. This is necessary to execute a subset of the actions in the processing pipeline in a loop, allowing us to continuously poll for updated statuses, etc., from the tax authority for the submitted documents. Finally, we have the e-invoicing service workspace designer feature for using the new Globalization Studio. Let's start by looking at the setup required in F&O for submitting invoices. We will go to Organization Administration, Setup, Electronic Document Parameters. For the simplicity of this demo, I am only considering customer invoice journals. However, the globalization feature we will release will include all types of documents that are supported for Chile, as shown here. In a subsequent release, we will also introduce a globalization feature to import vendor invoices. So, here you can see I have specified the context and the invoice model mappings. We have also specified the response types. This is the response we would get from the backend. It includes the signed XML obtained from Edicom, which we will store as an attachment to the corresponding invoice journal in F&O. This will eventually be used to generate printable invoices with QR codes. Next, let's go to the Globalization Studio itself. We will go to Home Dashboard, Globalization Studio, and then click on the Electronic Invoicing tile. This is the new e-invoicing Globalization Studio workspace. Once you import the feature from Dataverse, this is how it will look. We have simplified the setup process for deploying globalization features to a certain extent. We have introduced a new tab called Feature Parameters, where we have consolidated all the common parameters that you would otherwise need to specify in each feature setup individually. In this case, we interact with Edicom at least 3 times in the pipeline. First to submit the invoice, next to fetch the signed XML, and finally to fetch the status of the submitted invoice. Each of these interactions requires common parameters, such as Edicom connection details and the authentication token provided by Edicom. Previously, you would need to enter these same connection parameters repeatedly for each feature setup and action. With this new Feature Parameters tab, you only need to set these up once, eliminating the need to repeatedly specify the same information in individual feature setups. I will populate these feature parameters with the values provided to Microsoft by Edicom for our testing. These values will differ for you and will be provided by Edicom when you onboard. Okay, now that I have populated all the feature parameters, we are ready to complete and deploy the feature version. But first, let's go through the pipeline and the feature setup. You will notice here that I no longer need to go to each action where we call Edicom endpoints to specify those parameters. They are already referenced using the feature parameters. Since we have already provided values for all of those parameters, when we validate the feature setup, it should successfully validate. This approach clearly saves a substantial amount of time and clicks. Something to note, however, is that this simplification using the feature parameters will only be available starting from version 10.0.41. Now, let's go through all the actions in the pipeline. First, there's the transform document action, which converts the invoice model into a format that can be sent to Edicom for submission. Following this, the invoice is submitted to Edicom. After the submission, we fetch the signed XML from Edicom. This document might not be immediately available, as it takes some time for Edicom to generate it. This is where the concept of update actions comes into play. Notice that we have checked the update action checkbox for this step. This means that this step and all subsequent steps will be executed in a loop until we determine that we have reached a terminal state. We will explain how we determine that in the next steps. Next, we fetch the status of the submitted invoice from Edicom. The response we receive is then processed to determine if we have reached a terminal state. If the status response indicates a failure, the pipeline will be terminated and the submission marked as failed. If the response indicates a successful submission to the SII, Chilean Internal Revenue Service, the pipeline cannot be completed yet because in Chile, an invoice can be rejected by a customer for up to 8 days. During this time, the pipeline will be kept on hold in a state called pending execute update action. Finally, we have a terminate pipeline action where we specify the number of days to wait before terminating. In our current setup, the pipeline will terminate with a completed status if more than 9 days have passed since the invoice was submitted. If we receive a response indicating that the customer has rejected the invoice, this will be detected in the process response step and the pipeline will be marked as failed. If there are no rejections, the terminate pipeline step will mark the pipeline as completed. Let's now look at the applicability rules. These rules are quite standard, checking the legal entity and the country ISO code. This particular feature setup supports all 3 types of invoices: customer invoices, debit notes, and credit notes. Next, let's move on to the variables. We have the inbound business document data model variable that we receive from F&O, which we transform into the format required for submission. Additionally, we send the signed XML variable back to F&O, which contains the base 64 encoded response body from the get signed XML from Edicom step, as I showed earlier. This is used in the response types to save as an attachment to the journal and generate printable reports with QR codes. That's pretty much it. Next, we'll complete and deploy the feature version and try to submit an invoice. I have now completed and deployed feature version 2, and we are ready to submit invoices. We will go to Organization Administration, Periodic, Electronic Documents, Submit Electronic Documents to submit an invoice. I have already created and posted a free text invoice which I am going to submit. Now that it is submitted, we will go to Organization Administration, Periodic, Electronic Documents, Electronic Document Submission Log. You can already see here that the status is set to Pending Update Actions Execution. Let's see the submission details here. So, these steps were completed. And you would see that the response body would most likely be empty for the signed XML and get invoice status call. As expected, it is an empty XML, which means that it was not available immediately after the submission. Now, when it is in this state, we have introduced a function called Execute Update Actions. This function will resume the pipeline starting from the action marked as an update action and execute all the subsequent actions. You can configure it to run in batch mode and on a periodic basis by setting a recurrent schedule. But for the simplicity of this demo, I'm going to run it once in interactive mode. This should change the status to executing again. And after a few seconds, it is back to the Pending Update Actions Execution state. Looking at the submission details now, you will observe that these steps are executed again, and this time we did receive the signed XML. You can also see that in the Terminate Pipeline action, we are checking that since 9 days haven't passed, we are not completing the pipeline yet. Now, let's validate if the signed XML was attached to the invoice journal. Here we have the invoice document that we submitted. And we can see that Edicom source file is attached to this document. One last thing that I wanted to show you is what happens when 9 days have passed and the terminate pipeline is executed. So, as you can see here that these submissions are in completed state. And if you look at the submission details, you would notice that the terminate pipeline has completed as 9 days have passed. That's it for this demo then. Thank you so much for your time.
And now we are switching to the next functional area of the cross-LATAM localization, which is banking and payments. And I'm running the recording for this area.
For vendor or customer payment processes, you can use the LATAM extensions and the payment methods functionality in journals. The LATAM localization allows you to use the payment methods according to the regional usage. These are the most used payment methods. You can use one or more payment methods in the same journal. To get started, we need to create the payment methods, and we will use these LATAM forms. Cache configuration. In document class type form, create a new type. In payment method tab, select yes. Go to document class form. Create a document that represent cache. In document class type field, select the option created before. Select one document class letter. In payment media type, you will be able to select the type of payment method. In this case, we select cache. Others parameters are used for other payment methods. In bank account, create a bank account ID for each payment method, then add it here. Select all the journals where you will be able to use this method of payment. For cache payment method will not be necessary to complete this section. It will not be necessary to complete this section for this payment method either. Bank transfer configuration. In document class type form, create a new type. In payment method tab, select yes. Go to document class form. Create a document that represent bank transfer. In document class type field, select the option created before. Select one document class letter. In payment media type, you will be able to select the type of payment method In this case, we select bank transfer. In bank account, create a bank account ID for each payment method, then add it here. Select all the journals where you will be able to use this method of payment. Complete these sections as necessary. Collection document configuration. In document class type form, create a new type. In payment method tab, select yes. Go to document class form. Create a document that represents checks. In document class type field, select the option created before. Select one document class letter. In payment media type, you will be able to select the type of payment method. In this case, we select collection documents. Here we select all action that you can use with this payment method. We also configure the posting profile. Select all the journals where you will be able to use this method of payment. Complete these sections as necessary. Own values configuration. In document class type form, create a new type. In payment method tab, select yes. Go to document class form. Create a document that represents checks. In document class type field, select the option created before. Select one document class letter. In payment media type, you will be able to select the type of payment method. In this case, we select own values. Here we select all action that you can use with this payment method. Select one bank account. Select all the journals where you will be able to use this method of payment. Use the automatic mask functionality to assign the numbering for the checks you issue. Withholding tax configuration. In document class type form, create a new type. In payment method tab, select yes. Go to document class form. Create a document that represents withholdings. Select the document class type ID and document class letter. In payment media type, select withholdings. Select all the journals where you will be able to use this method of payment. In this section, you can enable fields to add information that this document will use in the journals. Now we will see how to use the payment methods in a customer payment journal. Go to Accounts Receivable, Payments, Customer Payment Journal. Select New. Select a customer payment journal. Go to Lines. Select the customer account. Go to Settle Transaction. Select the customer invoice. You can select more than one if you need it. In the Action pane, go to LATAM, Payment Methods. Here you can select each of the methods of payment. Select New. In the list, select the document class ID that represents the payment method. By default, the total amount of the invoice will be assigned to the first line. If you have multiple payment methods, delete the amount and enter the amount of each payment method. For each payment method, create a new line. Add the corresponding information for each of them. In document number field, complete with the check number received. For post-dated check, complete the due date field. Go to Lines, Check Amounts, and Journal Balance. In Customer line, complete LATAM tab with the receipt document information. Finally, you will be able to post the transaction. For the vendor payment journal, we will see a similar functionality. In Vendor Payment Journal page, create a new entry, selecting a journal. Select the vendor account. Select one invoice. Go to LATAM, Payment Methods. Select all payment methods you want to use. If you want to use a check received from a customer, go to Select Payment Media. Select the check from your customer. This functionality allows you to endorse a customer check and give it as a payment to a vendor. Once you finish selecting the payment methods, in Vendor Line, complete LATAM tab with the payment order information. Check the amounts and post the transaction.
Okay, now we are switching to the next functional area, which is around accounting reporting for all Latin countries and also specific to Chile.
Let's start with accounting reports. We will start with the reports common to all countries. Then, we will continue with the specific reports for Chile. How to download the reports. Go to Organization Administration, Workspaces, Electronic Reporting. Go to Configuration Providers. Go to Repositories. Select Global. Open. You will be able to view the Global Repository page. In this page, search for Ledger Accounting Reports. Here you can view all the accounting reports available. Select Ledger Accounting Report Model. In Configuration tab, select the report and press Import option. Then, select Ledger Accounting LATAM. And press Import option. Then, select General Ledger LATAM and press Import option. Once the formats have been downloaded, return to Electronic Reporting page. Select Reporting Configuration. You will be able to see the downloaded formats. General Ledger Configurations. When you select General Ledger Format, you will be able to view the country codes that this report has enabled. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, SSRS Report Services References. Select New. In Report ID field, type a value. In Description field, type a value. In Setting tab, choose ER Configuration option. In Model Mapping Name, select Ledger Accounting LTM. In Data Model Definition, select General Ledger. In Format Mapping field, type the format name. In Report Type section, check General Ledger option. Click Save. To print the report, go to General Ledger, Inquiries and Reports. LATAM, select General Ledger. In Report ID, select General Ledger ID option. Select the period you want to print. Check Include Current Layer. And print. You can select batch processing. Press OK. By default, report will be displayed in Excel, but you can configure it for PDF. Ledger posting configuration. Download the report from Global Repository. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, SSRS Report Services References. Select New. In Report ID field, type a value. In Description field, type a value. In Setting tab, choose ER Configuration option. In Model Mapping name, select Ledger Accounting LTM. In Data Model Definition, select Ledger Posting. In Format Mapping field, type the format name. In Report Type section, check Ledger Posting option. To print the report, go to General Ledger, Inquiries and Reports, LATAM, Ledger Posting Report. Select Ledger Posting ID. Select the period. You can select the account number. Press OK. Report will be downloaded in Excel, but you can change configuration to print it in PDF. Eight columns report configurations. Download the format from Global Repository. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, LATAM, SSRS Report Services References. Complete Report ID and Description. Complete Settings section. In Chile tab, check Ledger Tributary Report Chile. Go to General Ledger, Inquiries and Reports, 8 columns report. Select the period for the report. Inventory and Balance configuration. Download the report from Global Repository. Go to Organization Administration, Setup, SSRS Report Services References, Complete Report ID and Description, Complete Settings section. In Chile tab, check Inventory Balance option. Go to General Ledger, Inquiries and Reports, LATAM. Select Report ID. Select the period. Select Include Current Layer option, press OK. Report will be downloaded in Excel, but you can change configuration to print it in PDF.
And the last demo for today's session is dedicated to tax reporting for all LATAM countries and for Chile specifically.
Let's start with tax reports. A tax report shows the detail of the transactions on which taxes have been calculated. The reports we will see below are those that are linked to sales and purchase transactions. We will start with the reports common to LATAM countries, and then we will finish with those specific to Chile. How to download reports. Go to Organization Administration, Workspaces, Electronic Reporting. In Configuration Providers section, go to Repositories. Select Global, and then Open. In the list search, LTM Tax Report, you will see Model and Mapping. In the Global Repository, you will find a list of all available formats. These are the ones for Chile, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama. Purchase VAT Books. In this case, we will download the Purchase VAT Book S format for Chile. Go to Reporting Configurations. Once downloaded, you will be able to visualize the model, mapping, and formats on the left side of the page. Go to Configurations, Application-Specific Parameters, Setup. On this page, you will find the lookups options. This will allow you to choose what information you want to see in the report. You will also see the conditions for each of lookup. This will help you configure how to display the information. To understand how to set up the conditions, we will see an invoice posted in the Vendor Invoice Journal. In the LATAM tab, you will see the document class used in the transaction. In Posted Sales Tax, check the sales tax code used. Now go back to ER configuration. Select Vendor Invoice is applicable. Go to Conditions. Click Add. Select Yes. In Document Classification field, select the ID that corresponds to a vendor invoice. Then complete the other filters. The blank and non-blank conditions will help the report display information that matches the main filter parameters. There is more information at Microsoft Learn about electronic reporting configurations. For tax type lookup, go to Condition tab, add the sales tax codes that match with the options available. In this case, we select for VAT, sales tax code 19%. Here we have all tax options configured. We also completed the other parameters. The other lookups should be configured with blank and no blank conditions to help the report display the information requested in previous filters. To print the report, go to Tax, Inquiries and Reports, LATAM, Tax Reporting. Select the format. Select the period. By default, report will be downloaded in Excel, but you can change the configurations to print it in PDF. Sales VAT Book. Once you download the format, go to Applications Specific Parameters. Complete all lookups and conditions with the document class ID that represents sales documents. Also tax by lookup and select sales tax codes. To print the report, go to Tax Reporting Form. Select the period. Here we configure destination as PDF file. Sales per branch VAT book. Here in the lookups configuration, you will find by default only 2 sections. If your company has more than 2 branches, you will have to customize the report to add more conditions to be able to select all your branches. Remember, complete all lookups and conditions. Once you print the report, you will see how the format shows the information for each branch. Withholding tax book. After downloading the formats, go to User-Specific Applications. Configure the lookups and conditions with the document class ID and sales tax codes used in transactions that include withholdings on the documents called in Spanish as boleta de honorarios. Once you print the report, it will be displayed like this. Fees Certificate Report. After downloading the formats, go to User-Specific Applications. Configure the lookups and conditions with the document class ID and sales tax codes used in transactions that include withholdings. In the Monetary Correction Factors form, you may add the information published by the tax authority regarding the monetary correction percentages for the months of the year. Once you print the report, it will be displayed like this.
Okay, and we are now done with the demos for today's session. To finalize the session, I wanted to remind you about resources that are available to you related to the globalization in general and to Latin America localization in particular. So you can review the Microsoft Learn article dedicated to Globalization Studio to Latin America, and detailed documentation for cross-LATAM functionality and other country-specific articles. You should also follow the release plans that we publish on the Microsoft Learn portal to learn the specific timelines for localization for particular countries. I would also encourage you to review the electronic invoicing service documentation that is available on the Microsoft Learn portal to learn more about the electronic invoicing service, its components, its configuration and usage. And specifically, you can review this TechTalk series dedicated to electronic invoicing. And also an important information related to the merge of the regulatory configuration service functionality to the Globalization Studio workspace within Finance Maturation Apps. So basically, shortly you will not be able to use the regulatory configuration service, and all the globalization feature functionality will be available within Dynamics 365 Finance Maturation Apps. So please review this Microsoft Learn article reference here, and also there was a TechTalk session conducted that was dedicated to this RCS merge. This is important to learn this information in order to be able to use the globalization functionality available to LATAM countries. And also I'm reminding you about the various links and communication channels that we maintain in order to collect feedback or provide information related to Dynamics 365 Finance Maturation. With this, we are done with our session, so we continue responding to the questions posted in the Q&A section. And thanks for watching the session. Thanks for posting the questions. And I wish you the nice rest of the day. Thank you.